Despite being originally from California, our speaker this evening had the good fortune of being raised by two very conservative Republican parents who instilled in her the virtues and belief in small, fiscally conservative government, low taxes, and a very important one, a sense of personal responsibility. All of those stood to assure that their daughter became a lifelong Republican. While I would never ask a lady her age, I will indicate that she graduated from high school during the presidency of Ronald Reagan. And some of you remember where we were during the presidency of Ronald Reagan. And she attributes much of her incentive to become more involved in politics, in her community, and world affairs because she was inspired by Ronald Reagan and what he believed in. And he inspired her to roll up her sleeves and get to work. Seems to me I've heard that someplace else, but we'll come back to that in a minute. The virtues that she embraced in her early years have served her well in her professional career, which have included experience in banking, human resources, economic development, and most recently a very successful and productive career in real estate. In 1995, when she and her family moved to Clay County, Florida, she wasted no time in getting involved in the local Republican executive organization as a precinct committee person, starting at the grassroots. And I can tell you she is a big believer in supporting the grassroots. Her commitment and hard work led to her election in 2008 to be chairperson of the Clay County Republican organization, where she has also served as the chairperson for the women's support for the McCain-Palin ticket, the Scott Carroll ticket, and the Romney-Ryan ticket for Clay County. In 2012, she was honored by her colleagues and other county chairs by being named as the chair of the caucus for the county chairs of the RPOF. Some of you might remember that this year, a funny thing happened on our way to a critical election. Len Curry, who had led our party admirably for 2.5 years, decided that he needed to resign in order to run and concentrate on his bid to become the mayor of Jacksonville. With less than 6 months to the election, the RPOF had a possible serious leadership issue. We needed someone who could step up big time and sustain the momentum that we needed to carry us into November. I can proudly say that your representatives to the RPOF, Rich Cole, Diane Spencer, and myself, were unanimous in our support of the lady who was elected to fill that breach and took to heart the let's get to work attitude that laid the groundwork for the successful campaign that we have just completed. Friends and fellow Republicans, it is my honor and privilege to introduce the chairperson of the RPOF, Ms. Leslie Doughter.
Thank you. Am I good with this microphone? Okay, and I'm going to move around a bit. Thank you. Don't hold it against me that I'm from California because that's just where I'm from.
You want one without without tripping over?
Yeah. Can you hear me on that one? Yeah. Oh. All right. First and foremost, what I tell everybody, even before the election, especially after the election, is thank you. Because I don't think you understand this until I tell you this, because a lot of people don't tell you thank you. You don't have to be here tonight. You choose to get involved, you choose to be a leader of the Tea Party, you choose to be a leader of these clubs because you know what you do matters. If you weren't here, what would we be doing? Who would we be electing? If you weren't in charge and you weren't taking this to heart and actually getting good conservative Republicans elected, what would we have? I mean, I sit here and think going, if we didn't do anything and nobody was in this room, can you imagine what kind of country we had? So, or would have. So, number one, thank you for being here because you know by being here and by getting involved in the elections, your school board, your county commission, somebody actually, I think it was Monroe County, they actually vote for their mosquito control person. Okay? But guess what? That's an election, and it's a partisan one, and they raise money, they put signs out, but and we do that, we get involved, because you know that that matters. You know that when you elect those people to go into office, especially if they're a Republican, you can make a phone call and say, hey, I'd like to come talk to you about an issue that I have. And guess what? That Republican's going to open the door and sit down and say, hey, let's talk. You're my constituency. Not so sure that the other side of the aisle is going to do that with us if they're in office. So that's why I always say it's so important that we get people that are good conservative Republicans elected. And the way that we do that is by all of you here. It's not, I will tell you one thing, it's not the party telling you who to elect, it's the voters. And that's where it's so important, and that's what makes every one of you guys here important, because you get involved. You sit here at a table and you say, hey, I've been thinking about running for office. I've been thinking about running for school board. This is where it starts. This is where we get good people to manage our local community, our state, and even our national. And that's why I want to say thank you for everything that you do. Regarding the Scott campaign, I just got some of the numbers. We're still crunching. They're doing some polling right now because we all know exit polling is a big lie, right? Don't believe any of the polls that you see, because they'll tell you anything. When you come out of a poll and somebody sticks a camera in front of you and says, how did you vote? They're not going to tell you the truth. So they're doing some polling right now that we'll actually have at the quarterly meeting to kind of tell you a breakdown of what occurred during the whole election. We knocked on 4.1 million doors and made 4 million phone calls. That is unprecedented. Thank you. One of the other things that we did is we launched the most aggressive and successful micro-targeting campaign. Now that is something that kind of scares everybody, but unfortunately it's the world we live in. So we did targeting on Facebook. I mean, you name it. You ordered something on Google, whatever you did, we were out there on the computer, we were out there in media, we were out there watching what people do. So as we were looking at voters, we were able to say, okay, this person has the best propensity to go and vote for Rick Scott or a Republican ticket. Thereby, how many of you really received a lot of mail? I mean, you may have gotten maybe a couple pieces of mail on the election, but you didn't get inundated, right? Did you get quite a bit? Okay. You didn't get as much as some of the other people, I will tell you that, because you all know that you're probably a 404 voter, so a 404 voter means, those are the statistics, that you vote on every election. If you're a 304 voter, meaning you vote kind of 75% of the time. If you're a 202 voter, a 204 voter, you vote half of the time, so generally you don't show up in a gubernatorial election. If you're a 104 voter, you only show up at the presidential because you only think that's important. What we did is we micro-targeted the 1s, the 2s, and the 3s. And we knew that if we went after them with an absentee ballot, come, door to door, we knew that if we gave you an absentee ballot, you filled it in, we knew it would be at your door, we'd come after you. Because we knew your phone number, we knew where you lived, and we knew we could get that vote from you. And we knew the propensity of you to vote would be for us. So that's how we targeted. We did that more than, and now we'll go for 2 cycles, I believe. The Democrats didn't do that. And the Democrats only went after their 404s. So and then when they did that during the absentee ballot chase, they essentially cannibalized their people at the end. So what we did was when we had that absentee ballot chase, then we went after everybody absentee, and I know people probably didn't like all the phone calls, but we knew we could get those numbers in. And then we started after, again, early voting. And then, I don't know, I got the list too of, watch your signatures as you go through, especially an absentee ballot. The whole state came out. If you signed the absentee ballot a little bit different, your supervisor of elections shot it back. And there was a whole list of people that their absentee ballots were returned. Not a lot. I think I had 25 in my county. And then we sent just the Republicans to the Republican chairs and the county people to go after those people and go get those votes. So that's another thing that I don't know, as you educate your voters to come through in the next couple of years, make sure your signature is the same. And signatures change. I'm in real estate, mine's a mess. So you just want to make sure that that does it. Because there was quite a few votes that were left. I think there was about 2,500 that were throughout the whole state. But that's just one of the things that happens. Now, somebody said, what's our plan for 2015 and 2016? It's really easy. Win. That is it. I mean, I am telling you, win. Now, I don't want, we all go through the whole primary process, and everybody's going to have a vote. You've got to figure out which candidate you feel comfortable with in all the races we're going to do. I just hope we don't eviscerate our party and do the circular firing squad, because that doesn't help any of us. We all can sit here and agree on probably about 80% of the stuff, the good old Ronald Reagan 80%. I would rather do that and get a Republican into the White House and every other office that we have up for election at that point than sit here and say, well, you're not right. No, that's not a good, no. And it was really funny that this questionnaire lists your 3 main core values of the Republican Party. I can guarantee you, in this room, none of these will all be the same. So how can we sit here and say, this is the Republican Party? I mean, it's as diverse as everybody is in this room as they are in Miami and Hialeah and, I mean, everywhere in the state of Florida. And I will tell you, I spent probably the last 2 months, 3 months maybe, down in South Florida. And my job as the Republican chairman, the governor called me and said, I want you to go after Charlie Crist. And it's easy for me to do that because I'm not an elected official. When you're an elected official, it's not something you need to do. So I get to point out all of his flaws. That was the best time I've ever had. And I was telling a couple people about that. It was really easy to do, but what was very interesting as I did it is there is a huge Hispanic Cuban population in South Florida. They're all Republicans. They are. And they're changing. Now, the first thing they do when they come into America is they sign up, because they think democracy, guess what they sign up as? Democrat. Yeah. And once they figure out the Republican values, they're like, wait a minute, I'm a Republican. So they are all starting to change. And that, I will tell you, comes from the RNC and our outreach that has been occurring the last probably about 2 years. It's something that you don't know is happening because guess what? You're not Hispanic and you're not in South Florida. But it's been happening slowly. There's also an outreach into the African American through the churches, and that's also been happening. I've got a lady that's come in from the RNC, and she's, well, I'll say she's stationed out of Tallahassee. None of us are in Tallahassee because we're all traveling the state. But she goes into the black churches and talks with people and just talks with them. You can't sit here and say, I'm going to bang you over the head, you're really a Republican, and get them to change. You can't do that. You've got to go and set the example, and lo and behold, have that conversation with them, and before you know it, they're going, wait a minute, I really am a Republican. So that's kind of what has been happening over the last couple of years that you probably don't see because, quite frankly, we're all Republicans, and I don't want you to see what's going on underneath the groundswell. One of the things that was said to me that was kind of interesting, and you'll all go, ooh, Charlie Crist got 47%. That was the exact percentage that Mitt Romney spoke about in the infamous video. Yeah. That's kind of scary. So there is an education factor that we have. We're coming into a presidential election, and we have to maintain our momentum as we go. And if anything that I want to make sure is that we will paint the state of Florida red in 2016. I don't care who I have to chase around state of Florida. I was telling a story to a couple of people. One of the things that I had gone down to, they would call me and they'd fly me at 5 o'clock in the morning down to Miami and Broward County, and off I went to an early voting site, and it was Charlie Crist was on his bus tour. And it was an African-American library, right? Library's open to everybody. So I showed up, myself, and there was about 6 or 8 of us women. And it was the day after he had accepted the $90,000 from the strip club owners, which was degrading to women. You know, okay, that's your war on women, I'm gonna come after you. So we showed up with our Rick Scott signs, and I also have, do you guys know what a tracker is? A tracker? Okay, we had about 5 trackers. They're young guys that track Charlie Crist all the time. And gets off a plane, wherever he's at, they follow him. So we always know where he's at. And they usually come with the bullhorns and kind of create a little disturbance with what's going on. When Charlie ran for office, and yes, we all voted for him, I know that, but he recorded some, he recorded some robocalls where he talked about being a conservative Republican. Well, we had all that on tape on our phone, and we had a bullhorn of him saying those words as he showed up. So anyway, there were about, I don't know, 50 Charlie Crist supporters there, a microphone, a podium, everything ready to go at an early voting site. Okay? Now this is actually a city site. You can't do this in a public spot, but they did that. So we're there, because we can be there too. They had taken down all of our signs, so the trackers show up that are young men, and they put all the signs out. The 6 or 8 of us women go in there. The news crew's there because they're waiting for the bus to show up. And I don't quite know how it all happened, but all of a sudden mayhem kind of started. The news crew comes up, and I tell them why we're there and the whole $90,000 of money that we did. And then we stop, and then the bus shows up, but the bus doesn't pull in. And we couldn't figure out why. So everybody from Charlie Crist grabs their sign and run out to the bus. Well, we go too, and we hold up the sign, and I kind of stay back because he knows who I am, because I mean, we know each other. So I wait to see, and I wave from back, and we've got all of our Rick Scott signs. He gets out, and before all this, we kind of had a confrontation with the people about Charlie Crist is coming to our neighborhood, Rick Scott doesn't come to our neighborhood. Okay, well, fine. So he comes to the edge, opens up the door, sees a couple of our people here, and he can see us up above him too. And Annette Tadeo's with him, and all the other Crist people around there, waves, gets back in the bus, and leaves. We just sat there, we went, oh my gosh, we just did that. And the people that were there for him didn't know they were dumbfounded, completely dumbfounded. And one of the ladies who was the communications and was on the Scott campaign, she kind of screamed at them and said, well, how do you feel now? He didn't even stop in your community, in your neighborhood. And they were completely dumbfounded. So, I hate to say, but that 47% doesn't get it. They're not involved. They literally are just voting because somebody says that's who you vote for. Unfortunately, that's what we're up against. So the greater the number we can make ourselves and educate people, the better off we will be. Because the numbers are so close in the state of Florida. We need to use every effort we can. And when I became chairman, when was it? May, okay.
How soon we forget.
I know. I kind of told everybody, and people kind of, I don't know if they took this, how they took this, but I don't want anybody banging you over the head to be a Republican, because I would rather you stay an independent and vote for me rather than, you get mad at me because I'm sitting here going, you're really a Republican, and I think that we just need to, as we do in church all the time, just set the example of who you are, and as we are as Republicans and as the elected officials are, to then bring people to our party. Because the more that we set the good example, the better off we are. The last thing I'm sure you guys want to do or see is when you see a bunch of people bickering at each other, do you want to go be part of that? No. I mean, you want to be part of something that you know is going to be fruitful for you, fruitful for your family, because that's what it's about. And I will tell you, I've gotten to know Governor Scott over the last 4 or 5 months. I have never met a more selflessly dedicated person than him. And I don't know, a lot of people didn't know. He doesn't take a salary. He gets up at about 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning, gets on an airplane, starts making phone calls to bring businesses here. I mean, you know that. You've seen this happen. And I think when we go through to the presidential election, we need to kind of make sure that that same message that he did is what we need to do. It was interesting, I don't know. There's something that happened this election that a lot of people didn't realize. I kind of caught on to it early on. The cabinet members did it, but the governor did not, and I kind of liked it. You did not see, what was it? It was something like, well, veterans for so-and-so, or sportsmen for so-and-so, or all that little grouping, you know, the little signs. We didn't do that this time, and I like that because it's important to every one of us. As soon as we started, I think, sectioning ourselves off as little groups, it just kind of, I don't know, it didn't bring us all together. And I think that's the one thing that we have to understand. We're together in this room because we all believe in the same ideals of the Republican Party. Now, they all may be a little bit different. Every one of these things that you write down may be different, but it darn sure isn't on the Democrat side. So, I mean, I urge you as you go forward, you know this, a majority of your population around here is Republican, and they'll start to get involved as we go forward. And the micro-targeting that we did, the phone calls, the grassroots, everybody did the work, along with that micro-targeting is what's going to win the day in 2016 for us. And that is the one thing that I think that we need to focus on and is the goal, and that is winning in 2016. So, does anybody have any questions? Sure.
What do we need to do better in 2 years, or the next 2 years?
Can I switch with you again?
Yeah.
So I give them one.
Oh, sure.
Sorry.
He can hear you too.
Let me get all the data that's coming out of it. One thing that I will tell you that what we learned more than anything, the way that we did campaigns 2 years ago, 4 years ago, it's not how you run campaigns anymore. Campaigns literally were changing every 24 hours. The way in which you do things, I mean, things were happening, you know, right on top of each other. So one of the things that my main thing that I did was media. And anytime Charlie Crist was somewhere, I was right there to get on the camera at the same time. And any time that you have a Democrat here, one of your elected officials that's a Democrat speaking to the media about an event, you should have the Republican Party there. You should have another Republican elected official there giving the other side. Because that was the key. One of the things I did, he showed up in Gainesville, and the Democrat college Republicans were there. And we showed up with a group as well. And he's always late. He was like 30 minutes late. And the news crews, there must have been, I don't know, 10 news crews, and a stage, and they had taken a break because they didn't know what to do. We walked right in, and I stood right behind the podium and had all the Charlie Crist thing, and I interviewed with every one of those news crews right in front of it with the Charlie Crist and stuff. And you want to make the governor laugh? He thought that was hysterical. And he loved the whole thing that happened with the bus tour too. But that's how you kind of get our message out, because the media has to be fair. And so, I know. And that's one thing I will say that I've learned in the last 5 months regarding this is, honest to God, every one of you should be trained on how to deal with the media. Because the more that we are trained on how to talk to the media, how to answer their questions, because if they're turning around interviewing, you know, what you may perceive as the Democrat on the other side, you need to be stepping up there saying, do you want to hear our side of the story? And getting in front of them and saying, this is our message and this is our side. Because what we're doing is we're not. We don't know to do that. Now, seasoned campaign people do. And when you're running a campaign, that's all you do, because you've got to get your message out. So one of the things I think that I did, I guess I did as chair of Chairman's Caucus, I don't know, 6-8 months ago, was have media training for the chairman, because it's so important, because you guys are out there. And they're going to ask you questions, and you've got to be able to tell them that side of the story. And especially step up, Tea Party too. If they're gonna step up and give one side, be out there giving our side to it too. And ask for it. Because if you don't ask, you're never gonna get on, you know. So that's one of the things that I would suggest. We've got to get the message out more and more, you know. Yes, sir.
Curiosity. What's the Republican Party gonna do? Curiosity, what is the Republican Party gonna do about women's choice? Because in the past, they have alienated a lot of women voters, which is over 50% of the voters. You know, that position, to me, makes absolutely no sense whatsoever, and I'm kind of embarrassed to call myself a Republican and be branded by that. They've got to do something about it.
I'm sure they will. I mean, I'm sure that we'll get to, that's one of those media things. I kind of don't, I'm watching that we're getting more away from more social issues, where, you know, than we are really the nuts and bolts of conservative governing, you know.
They've got to establish a position. They can't just ignore it.
And they will.
Because the Democrats aren't going to let them ignore it.
Right, right. And they will. They'll come up with something. I think that'll come out of the RNC when we get through with the platform. That comes out, I want to say, probably in about, it comes in during the presidential year, and that platform's like that. You know, big old thing to read. So they will come out with something.
Right.
Yeah. Yes, ma'am.
What I want to say to this gentleman here is exactly what Joanne and some of the Republican Federated Women and what the Villages Tea Party, we didn't wait for you guys. Okay, we went out and we did our own video, and it's called War on Women. And so the concept is, don't wait for these guys. If you've got something to say, find a way to say it. And we did it through our own video because we wanted to answer the war on women. And we did exactly that. It's available through Joanne's website, and it's also available through ours. And we will probably consider doing more of the YouTube, it's up on YouTube, more of those type of things, and creating our own media so that these guys don't have to waste time and money. We can produce it and it doesn't cost us a dime.
Yes. It's kind of funny because when you're at the REC level and you have RPOF, RECs run autonomous. I mean, they're their own little incorporated businesses. You don't want RPOF telling you what to do. You don't want the RNC telling you what to do. I've got 67 counties. I got 67 different personalities. Every one of them should be doing their own thing. That's kind of why we came up with Amendment 2. I may feel one way about Amendment 2. South Florida may feel a different way. And they were like, oh, the party needs to... No. I want it down here at the REC level. You guys choose where you want to sit on those issues because everybody's going to be a little bit different. And that's where it goes. I mean, it goes to the grassroots. That's where it should all cultivate from. The last thing I want to be told from anybody up is how you should be. You know, come down on top of me and say, oh, you got to act like this. No, I don't want it. It needs to come from, because every state's going to be different at this point too. But they may all have Republican values and principles, but they may disagree on that one. Doesn't make us not a Republican. So you're going to see it on both sides. Yes, sir.
Youth here in Florida, what's the party doing to promote conservatism among college age, high school age, that 20-30 group? You know, most of us come out of high school, go to college or whatever, we register as a Democrat unless our parents have taught us right, and then we learn how to be Republicans later. Are we getting to more of these kids sooner?
Yes, and one of the funny things that I was just the other day, kids like, who's FICA? And why are they taking money out of my paycheck? And I'm like, welcome to the Republican Party. You know, really, that's where it's at. And that's the education tool right there. Well, honey, you just figured out what the Republican Party is. And that's where you go with it. You know, once they get their first job and they start to feel like, what is it? Where do you go with it? We've got I know we've got college Republicans, YRs, they're steadily gaining speed as we go. The YRs right now, one of the things I did in the, I don't even remember what month it was, July annual meeting? Or the last meeting we did, was it June, July? Quarterly meeting. It just infuriated me to no end. We have the Federated Women, we've got the college Republicans, we got the YRs, we got the RPOF, and it's like everybody had their separate meeting. I said, would you all come to one quarterly meeting? It was the victory dinner. And so I said, bring everybody together. And so we brought in the YRs, the TARs, the college Republicans, we invited the Federated Women. And one of the things I encouraged them to do, we had congressional district CD caucuses. I encouraged them to go into those caucus meetings, meet those caucus people, because as these campaigns were going, one of them was the Sutherland campaign, the YRs could walk far more doors than I can. Get them involved in their local caucuses where they may not know those people in those counties. And they did, and they got involved in other ways. So that's just one of the ways it's happening. We did, this last campaign, they also did a college internship where they were paying college interns to work on the campaign. That brought a lot of kids into it too. So they're slowly doing things to bring them in. Unfortunately, those college professors are very influential.
Really?
That's the problem. But FICA has a way of making it all come out. Yeah.
What else?
Anybody else? Yes, ma'am.
The issue of the unions, and particularly in the case that we experienced, our son-in-law, 23 years of teaching, felt the pressure incredibly, as did his wife, in a major city that you would know, and there was just no end to the pressure. He always was Republican. He voted Democrat.
Really?
He did, because they told him, everybody on the staff will know, and you won't be able to talk, about that you did and that. Childish to me, being an educator. Childish. But it worked.
It worked. Yeah.
But he didn't win.
Right. Thank
The
goodness.
Republican won the governor.
Yeah, thank goodness.
But imagine to stoop to levels as they did as a union. They're very, very strong.
Well, wait till you watch what's going to happen this president. If you think this governor's election was bad, you wait.
Yeah.
The presidential's going to be 10 times worse. I guarantee it. SEIU will be down here. They will come down in full force. And come on, bring it on. I don't have a problem going to bat with them. I mean, we've got enough people that we can go after them. But it's going to get worse. I mean, if you thought campaigning was bad, it's going to get even worse this next time. Yes, sir.
I understand that in the last presidential election, a lot of conservatives didn't vote because they didn't like Romney's religious affiliation.
Mm-hmm.
And how do you get those people to understand if they don't vote, they get what we got today?
They've had 8 years to understand. I mean, I cannot, I mean, I could say a little cliche here, which would not be very nice, but I can't fix people that are not going to open up their eyes. I mean, we can only do what we can do. I mean, I can only tell you, and that's the purpose of the Republican Party. We have got to get good candidates out there, and we go win elections. If you're going to sit here and say, well, I'm not going to vote for this person because they drive a blue Volkswagen, no matter what I tell them, they're like, I'm not voting for them, they drive a Volkswagen. I can't reason with somebody like that. We need to be able to think a little bit bigger than just ourselves. And that's what's so important. This is not about the Republican Party of Leslie or anything like that. This is about our country. This is about making sure that all of us understand and get everybody out to vote. And unfortunately, we have people like that that are just not going to do it. And I mean, I can't, there's nothing we can do other than say, well, did you like Obama the last 8 years? I can't believe he got reelected. I just sit here and I told people in one of the speeches, how did you feel the morning after Obama got reelected? I mean, we did really well. We know how to win against the Democrat, especially Charlie Crist, during this this last governor's election. So we know what it takes to get there. Now, it's going to be just a monstrosity to do the presidential, but we've got the groundwork laid. We've got the foundation. The volunteers and everybody that did all the work, oh my gosh, now, that's going to come tenfold during this presidential because we understand what's at stake this time. And if they're going to sit home because, oh, I'm sorry, he's overweight and I'm not going to vote for him, whatever, then stay home. I'm thinking about getting people like that a one-way ticket to Zimbabwe or something. But I just, well, you know what, why, come on. This is a little bit more than somebody's religion. This is about running a country. And if that's all you can think about, I just, sorry.
How can we counter Hillary? So many women might vote for a woman. Now, I don't know.
I don't have a problem counting her at all.
Neither do I.
She has got so much stuff that we can come after her with. I don't have a problem going after her at all.
Good.
I just don't. And she will be fun. Let me tell you, it's one of those things that, oh, come on down here, girlfriend. Let's go. I mean, really. Even Debbie Wasserman Schultz, she was kind of, Allison Tant, she's the Democrat leader for, oh my. They're just, she would not debate me. I tried to get Allison Tant to be on a radio or a TV show with me. She wouldn't even show up. And I'm like, come on, let's have some fun, and wouldn't do it. Wouldn't even do it. So there is plenty of stuff. There is no problem going after Hillary. None at all.
Good.
Yeah. Be rest assured, we will win that battle. One of the things that I think people, and this is where we didn't do too much of, women for Scott type thing. One of the things that I think we all understand in real estate, women make, I think it was about 80 to 85% of the choices when it comes to real estate. Women are the ones that make the decision to purchase. We are about, I think the next one was about 93% of purchasing of goods throughout the state, women make. We're the economic engine. We're the ones that keep the economy running. So, you want to talk about war on women? Come on, let's go. We're the ones that make it happen. We're the ones that are employed. So don't come and argue and say there's a war on women when there really isn't. Because we can, run circles around you at this point. And the only reason why they do that is, quite frankly, they have nothing else better to say. It's, oh, boo-boo on you, I don't like you. Look, come on, war on women, try again, let's go at it. So I think that'll actually be kind of fun. But they don't show up to play. Sir?
Thank you.
I have to give the microphone back. Thank you. One more? Oh.
Listen, I want to tell you, because I'm with you 100% on the media.
Oh, yeah.
We've got to do more media. George is also one of our cameramen for the Villages Tea Party. George and I, every Thursday that we were volunteering at the phone banking, from 4 to 6, we were also doing interviews on the square. And we called it Voices from the Square, and we also called it the Men or the Women on the Bench series, because we were sitting them on a bench. And it's like a Walter's World, which you guys all see on O'Reilly, and you think about all those dumb kids that they're interviewing. I'm sorry, you're going, oh my goodness, where did they get that? But we did that, and I'll tell you what, one, it gave everybody an opportunity who was feeling a certain way to voice their opinion. Understand, we cannot be silent in this room. We are giving away our freedom of speech if we refuse to talk. And it was a successful, we did it every Thursday. And what started it was when Obama went back out on the golf course after he talked about Foley, the journalist, and I got so mad, I called my camera guy and I says, bring me the camera, I'm going out on the street and I'm going to start talking to people. We did it, it was very successful. Get involved.
Just one more, you're 100% right. I've got a 15-year-old daughter. She does not watch TV. What does she watch? YouTube. And even me, House of Cards, you know what House of Cards is? Okay. I can watch a whole series of House of Cards in like 2 days. Because we have gone away from, and I remember turning the channel every, Monday at 5 o'clock, I'm gonna watch a certain show, and that's when it is. We don't do that anymore. It's all on demand. So the more that you can do video and get your message out there and talk to those people, the better off we are, and just keep doing it. That was one of the things our tech department did when Charlie had that fan. The fan. That we had the tech girl, I call them the tech girls. I had the head of the tech department was a gentleman, and then there was about 6 girls who were literally, they were young kids. They were like 20 years old. They went into work that night. When I walked out of that, I was at that debate. They went to work at 11 o'clock, worked through the night, okay? And the next morning I'm watching and I'm going, oh my gosh, that's us. And on CNN everywhere, we had all of these funny captions with the arrow and there's the fan and pictures of Charlie. They were all over the news. And it made it, we were playing kind of catch up because of what happened, because Charlie cheated. But we were able to turn it completely around on him, and that was the beauty of having a media available and to really go after it. So yes, that's what you have to do. You've got to say your side of the message and poke right back at him. The whole women's movement, poke right back at him with the same thing.
We actually, I gotta tell you this because we had fun with the fan. I actually wrote a cartoonist that I use up on our website. I got the cartoonist to do a fan cartoon on Charlie. We made an 8x10 of it. We presented to the governor when he was here on November 3rd, and it was up on the website, and it was fantastic. And now I've got this relationship with a cartoonist who sends me stuff every day.
Fabulous. And one of the funny things, the next interview that he did in Channel 4, which I happen to have somebody real close to me on the inside, found out that they asked about the fan, and CNN came back and said, you're not getting a fan, and I'm on the phone kind of screaming, going, who's going to police this? I said, are you going to go up there and take this fan out before you start interviewing? And he's like, no, trust me, there won't be a fan. Did you watch that interview?
Oh, yeah.
He was visibly uncomfortable through that whole thing, and Governor Scott really had everything loaded and ready to go. And I had talked with a friend who was a behavioral psychologist, I think she was, and she said, he's addicted to that fan. He is literally addicted to it. And I'm like, thank goodness he is not our governor. Thank you. Thank you to all of you.
Leslie, thanks for coming.